This alchemy, this harmony, yeah, is the key to the kingdom and queendom of heaven, earth.
Hello and welcome to Healing in Harmony with Cora Flora. And today I'm blessed to be with one of my favorite people in the world, someone who's been a great friend to me for many years, Shadow, a part of Liza Ingram, who is an amazing writer, performance artist, and gladiator of a healing goddess. And that was actually my inspiration for this title of Gladiator Love, Alchemizing Trauma, Alchemizing, with Shadow Dancer, Shadow, Liza. And yeah, I'm really excited about this. I chose and I felt inspired about the gladiator aspect because not only, like, honestly, my inspiration was I was thinking about the 90s TV show where there's these gladiators who are all these like strong beings wearing these like bathing suits and they're fighting each other and they're all like strong. I was researching it today and then I was like, oh, there's a connection with gladiators in Rome who were slaves and captives who would fight to the death in front of an arena of people. And so to me, the level of badassery, of courage, of strength, of conviction, of power, to just be like, yeah, let's go for it. It's really inspiring because honestly, on the journey of healing PTSD, healing from trauma, and pursuing love, like Liza and I have had in Shadow and so many parts of her have had amazing chats that have been so healing and helpful for me. And we've reflected on how sometimes it feels like Hunger Games and just like trying to shoot that final arrow into like that center of the fucking matrix. Like sometimes going for love is the scariest thing. And they had actually approached me with the potential title for this podcast as Love, Worth the Risk. And so during this conversation, my intention is just to share as much healing juice, realness, authenticity, whatever flows that helps us and you expand into that greater level of love and heaven on earth, no matter what we've been through. Because the truth is, for those of us who've been through sexual, emotional, different kinds of trauma, it's really scary, even though deep down we need it. Deep down we deserve it. Deep down it's going to be the most helpful, empowering, supportive thing. And so it is so worth it. But yeah, I'd love to hear from you. Like, I would love to share how we met. And then I'd love to hear your perspective. So how we met is through your sister, Katie, who is lovely and magical and amazing. And I remember meeting her at the Living Center in London, Ontario, where I was doing a spiritual gardening apprenticeship and we were getting into spirituals. We had these funny jokes about like doing spiritual work, but being farmers. And so also like, there was these funny jokes around spirituals that I want to play out at some point more. But yeah, I met you in Peterborough when I was landing there after being in a health center for healing trauma, depression, etc. And I needed a fresh start. So I landed in Peterborough and then I met you and I was like, whoa, this woman's so deep. And like, I love you both. And it's interesting though, that you and our connection just got deeper. Like, I think our paths just kept winding together. And then especially through COVID, I feel like our friendship just got really solidified because like you were one of the really amazing, safe people that I could just talk to and call. And our journeys were really like helpful to share. And our conversations are always super deep and amazing. And so I just appreciate you for all the like treasures of love and support you've given me and just like a safe place for my soul to land. And when I was asking Spirit for YouTube videos to kind of help me to be prepared for this call, for this interview, one of them was Teal Swan's video about secure relationships and how to create secure relationships. And I just want to thank you for being one of those for me and giving me like patterns of like safety and support. So I would love to hear from you. What's your experience of how we met? And take the stage, queen, goddess, being.
I think that's the story. Like we trying to remember. You know what? You in how I first met you was you were looking at my room on the third floor to see if you wanted to rent it. And then you decided to rent another place. But that's how I initially met you. And I remember that. So, and you didn't like the color of the room.
Baby blue. I don't like it. Yeah.
Yes.
So. Then I painted it purple though, after years later.
Yeah, years later. Like you had left Peterborough and then come back, and then you did stay with us for a couple weeks or a couple months. I can't remember. But then you painted the room purple and the furniture black, which I really liked. I really like that. Although apparently it's now beige, so but it's okay. We've moved on. Anyway, so that was how we met, through my sister.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm super grateful for like all the conversations we've had and also witnessing your journey because I've been simultaneously very interested in DID. And part of our friendship has been you going through experiencing receiving that diagnosis and like realizing that you're multiple. And I'm just curious, like, do you feel inspired to share anything about that and anything related to your experience also of love with that?
Well, if you, I would prefer is if you ask me a question that you have about it, because then it will kind of give me a focal point. Because to just sort of blurt out like my spiel on it, it just feels like a lot. Which
Okay.
I don't mind sharing, but just ask me a question. Ask me literally anything you want.
Okay, then I'll get specific. So I will say, since I'm communicating with Shadow, an aspect of Liza apart, what is your perspective of love?
My perspective of love. I think now it's security. It's predictability and like consistency. So I think that that's like what I think of it now. I'm not sure if I had a concept of love before that, before like therapy. So I got that concept from therapy. Um because I think before that I didn't really feel, I'm trying to think if I experienced love in like a sense of like what you would, anything that we could relate to what would love would actually be. I don't know if I felt that. I would think I just had too much fear. So I mean I felt like me specifically as an alter, right? Maybe other parts of us had maybe other alters had more experiences with love, but I personally didn't have like, I didn't really experience. Yeah, I would say if you just take me as an alter, then I would say I didn't really experience any kind of love until yeah, if I'm trying to think of like where would I have experienced love, like my existence was as a protective alter. Like that's how I emerged, is as a protective alter against abuse. So I personally didn't really feel like love until I started to have therapy, and then after a long, long time of therapy, I think I experienced the phases of love for me were first like to actually experience love was like first to feel like angry, like first to feel like afraid and be like, sort of vicious.
How
my
so?
well, I was like I would say that I was like hostile when my doctor first connected with me in any sort of authentic way. Like I was just like nasty. Like I would just I would see a lot of different shades of hostile. I'm trying to think of like, was I nice? Yeah, I don't know. It's been nice. Has been like a long term evolution for me to be like palatable to a man in in more intimate situation. Like I think that my I can like talk to people and be nice and all, but like to be vulnerable with a person and experience actual intimate kinds of love, I didn't. That involves some vulnerability, and that wasn't what I really like. I wasn't like, I didn't start with vulnerability. I started as a very very aggressive, not violent or naturally hostile, but um kind of hardened to softer emotions, and like very very skeptical of a guy like being nice to me. So, but my doctor was very persistent with his care and was very like sympathetic to my uh fragilities, and then eventually I think it can't even remember like a particular point in time when it started to change, but I eventually like, started to become much more like, I think there was a lot of like after the initial hostility there was a lot of pain and suffering and sadness, and that's like then I kind of started to, that was like I'd say like probably like 2 or 3 years in is when I started to feel like more sensitive feelings. But it was always just like a slurry of like I was, yeah, hostility and like anger and like defensiveness, and like I'd find, yeah, it was a kind of a mess. And actually I think it's continuing to evolve, and now I think it's at its probably most like peaceful and like warm connection. Like there's not so much dealing with all the static discharge of, you know, too much like trauma, like of trauma, you know what I mean? So my experience of love now is like my doctor being consistent over time and convincing my whole nervous system that he's going to be there the next time, and that he's not going to find a reason to get rid of me. So, and that I don't have to like earn his care. So,
Yeah, thanks for sharing. That's like, I really admire how much healing you've done, like how much you've pursued therapy, like consistently, like a fucking warrior. Like, again, that's why I bring in the gladiator reference, like to actually pursue healing. Like when parts of us that have been through trauma are like, are you fucking kidding me? Why would I fucking heal? I don't want to go feel that bullshit they put me through. That's part of me a little bit getting into my shadow, but like, it is worth it, because deep down I'm like, I do believe in love, I do believe in great sex, and I believe that it's possible for us, and I do believe too that just like when a bone is broken, it can heal into the most like, to be even stronger. And I do feel like for those of us who've experienced trauma around this stuff, there's the potentiality to be like superheroes in our own way. And even some people perceive that DID is a bit of a superhero like, I don't want to call it a disease. It's I don't know, a disorder,
I think it's an illness.
illness. But I mean, at the same time, I think it's a coping mechanism. Like I feel like it's a way of coping with challenging things. But it's interesting though, because the fragmentation causes something where, like I've heard stories about where someone is, or well, even on the show The OA on Netflix, the woman's blind, but then as she goes through whatever, like really like intense shit, trauma basically, and then she suddenly can see. And there's parts of her that can see. And likewise, I've heard similar stories around people who have DID where like one part of them needs glasses and another part doesn't, or things like that. I find it very interesting. Like I find it fascinating, just like how resilient the soul is and how people can evolve and adapt. And I also love and bless the healing journey. And part of what I wish to express and share and amplify with this podcast, with this interview on YouTube, is also to really just like celebrate people who have DID, because it's actually quite common. It's as common as people who are ginger, who have red hair. And you know, and Teal Swan, who has a video about fragmentation that talks about it on a general way, she suggests that it's actually extremely common. Like most people have parts of themselves that they've denied and suppressed, and those parts are still there. You know, they still come out, like when you're drinking or when this happens or when that, like, and so it's really worth it to kind of come into harmony, to heal into harmony, if you will. The podcasting. But I'm curious for you, Shadow, what has been the greatest benefit of healing? Like what have you benefited from the most of pursuing that, even if you didn't want to?
A more connected relationship with my son. I think that's the most the most important gift. The thing that kind of, it has kept me in the game even when it's been, like, really difficult. So, yeah, and it's not like I had a bad relationship with him before, but I started therapy when he was really young, like, about, mm, he's 10 now, probably 4 years old was when I started therapy, and, and that was a good thing. Like, it was really, really good to, like, 'cause I mean, as good as a mom as I was, I felt like over the long run, because I was in relationships that were controlling, I needed to, like, find a way to get out of that, or it would just drain me over the long run. And no matter how much I would try to love my son, I would end up being a shell of a human being, and that's not good for him. So me, like, going to therapy made me have the ability to live as a free person. And so that now I can give him my attention and energy, and also focus on my own life and what I want to do. So,
That's amazing. And honestly, like witnessing your relationship with him, like you guys are so connected. You have such a like deep soul purpose together, such a resonance, and you're creative together. It's so cool to witness that. Like that's really rare and special.
yeah, I really am. I'm very fortunate, because I mean, beyond, like, just us, we don't have to do all that stuff to have a healthy relationship, but the fact that we do get to do fun, creative stuff like that together is really special. So, yeah,
That's
thank you.
amazing. You're so welcome. And honestly, too, Shadow, I would love to hear from you. Like, what do you love? What do you love about being now? And what are you most excited about in terms of your creative expression?
Well, I get to be a dancer, which is really fun. Um, I teach exotic pole, and that is really an exciting journey. I just started doing that a couple months ago, and I was invited to teach that through the studio that I took my lessons through. And my teacher asked me to teach, and she trained me, and then I just started teaching like 2 months ago, and my classes got really good reviews. So I'm really excited about that. That's fun. So that's like one of the creative things, and the other thing is there's two other big creative projects we're working on right now. So one is the music, like a music recorded album. You know what I'm talking about. You do that stuff. Yeah, so after an 18-year hiatus, I started to do record my songs. So it's just at the very, very beginning of doing that. So there's not a whole lot of progress on it, but I'm really excited about that because I didn't really think that I'd ever get back into it. And this third one is our book, which is in its third draft right now. We're kind of at the last mile when it comes to finishing the writing process, and then we'll be moving on to the trying to get it published process. Or yeah, then we're moving on to like the preliminary stages of publication. So it'll take a while, but that's another thing that's kind of a big project that's coming through.
That's amazing. And I just want to say to anyone out here listening, Liza, her whole system, as like the writing skill and talent is off the charts. Like they are one of my favorite writers ever. Like honestly, like and especially hearing your spoken word, I find just so nourishing. You're so courageous to like flow through the shadow and admit like some of the darkest stuff. And it's so nourishing. Like it's so like healing. And it just it feels to me like a similar feeling to like when I'm listening to like dark female fronted metal, when I'm just like, it's okay to feel this. And it's so empowering. And like likewise, your writing is just like, oh, like it doesn't matter how deep you are in the gutter or the trenches of like life, because the truth is there is dark. Like life has a lot of dark. Like as much as we can find the light, and as spiritual seekers, healers, creatives, teachers, whatever, we're pursuing the medicine. But at the same time, if we bless the wound as well, and we're like, ooh, I love, like, here's my wound, like, if we actually get into it almost in a kinky existential way, there's so much power there, because then it doesn't become this thing that we're like running away from, like, oh no, but we're actually like, hey, bring it on, like, I'm an alchemist. And that brings me to the second part of this, of the title, which is alchemizing trauma. So I'm curious for you, especially, I'm very interested because you're a DID part. What is your perception on alchemizing trauma? Like, how do you, as a unique part, as shadow, how are you turning what Liza, what your whole system has been through, into gold? Like, how are you like making it something that's actually your power, not just your pain, but your power?
I think exotic dance is one thing that really like is me turning pain into power. Because initially I like started off with sex work as like as a as a as a victim of trafficking. So that like was so that like those some of those skills translate, um got to retain some of those skills as like an entertainer, right? It's like I learned a lot of entertainment skills doing that, being in that position. It was very dark and terrible, obviously, um but there was elements of like, you know, learning how to channel my energy in a way that definitely, and the performative elements of it that sort of paved the way for me being an exotic dancer, which I don't feel, I feel like there's definitely like the potential for it to plug into trauma and things like that, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think it can be a bad thing for sure, but it just depends on what the outcome is, right? For example, exotic dancing itself is not necessarily connected to trauma, but because of my background, there's some like humiliation, there's some like pain, there's a dark side to it for sure, right? So yeah, as a way of like so for me, exotic dancing and like having like an OnlyFans and being kind of worshipped for my sexuality is I think it could be, it has been in the past a bit dicey, like a bit questionable as to whether I was um engaging in toxic behaviors, but I think as time has gone by, I found that I've been able to sort of like put a lens on it that actually is truly not toxic and it's empowering to me. So I'm truly kind of doing what I feel like doing and wanting to do and enjoying myself, especially like the most, I think, easiest example of that and the clearest example I think would be the teaching exotic dance, because I'm essentially hypersexualizing a dance, but for a very specific audience, which is other women mostly. I've never really had a male in my dance class, but I haven't taught a whole bunch of dance classes. But anyway, same energy. But basically, that's the most like obvious thing, the almost obvious situation that's very healthy that has come from this, because it's like they're having a good time, I'm having a good time, everybody leaves the class feeling like $1,000,000 and they get to learn a skill, you get to do exercise, it's healthy for you. You're not on a screen, you're not smoking, you're using your body, you're enjoying yourself. So it's a beautiful means of expression, but it's also very sexualized and kind of has that like edgy like stripper culture kind of vibe to it. So but it's also, but it's in the most empowered way possible. So I don't know, that part is the most obvious way that I've been able to channel some of that. I mean, there's other ways. I think the writing, like I use I like I like learned to write. Like I started writing. Kept a writing practice since I was about 12, like a very, very consistent one. Use writing as a means of like expressing my feelings and sort of as a means of emotional survival and things like that. And then that's just carried on. So that's another way I've continued to hone that skill and develop that skill. And then now hopefully it'll come to fruition at some point. It's not my skill that's in question, it's my ability to freaking focus. And get the third draft done, which is very difficult. So, but yeah, so those are some examples of how I've alchemized my healing.
Wow. I
Like,
just want to say you're such a badass. Like what you're doing, who you are is so badass. Like, and I also want to I also want to echo and celebrate what you said about being worshipped for your sexuality. Like that, big, big. And also I feel like I know for me, like deep in my soul, like beyond this lifetime and echoing into other lifetimes, there's this knowing and this feeling around goddess temples. I don't have super specific memories yet, but I can just sense, like even for me, like when I got into burlesque, I was like, I too was moving through sexual trauma and wanting to just like, I wanted to express myself. I just deep down, I wanted to be in that feminine radiance and that like sacred sexuality and that love, power, grace, flow, beauty, fun, play. And when I did it, I remember I got a taste of that. And deep down in my soul, I was like, I could kind of sense like, I've done this in other lifetimes. There's something that's familiar. And so I honor you for doing that. And I also want to honor your writing and just how it's so fucking important too, because I feel like that's really owning that goddess wisdom. That's really, oh, bless you.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. You're so blessed.
Maybe that's what was happening.
You're just blessed up. Yeah. And everyone out here is getting blessed up, you know?
One
Do you want
sec.
to cut in?
Just one sec. I'll be right back. I'll be right.
Okay. Well, I'm going to jam a little bit while she's stepping away to sneeze and stuff. But yeah, I just want to thank all of you for being a part of this interview. We have less than 5 minutes left on the Zoom right now. She might have to go. They might have to go. But thank you for being a part of this. It's been such an honor to share. And yeah, I really love this person. She's one of my greatest friends who's been there for me in one of the deepest times. And she's always been a safe person, like someone that no matter how dark it got, I always felt like, you know, consensually when we agreed to a call or whatever, you know, I could just be fully real. And that's so rare and so special. And like this person is a real treasure to me. So I hope that it inspires you and helps you to know that you're also a treasure and to know that your love and your connection, your wisdom, your authenticity is such a gift to yourself and to the people in your life who are drawn to you, that you are drawn to, that, you know, our connection, our harmony is so healing and so empowering and so important. And especially honoring that many of us have past lives together and we have codes together. And when we connect, we open up like the Vesica Pisces, the logo for this podcast. It's this, it's actually a divine feminine symbol with the yoni, but it's also a Jesus reference that where two or more are gathered, I am there. It's kind of referencing that like we're two wholes, we're totally whole and complete and good on our own. But when we come together, it opens up this like whole nother level together. And I've experienced that with a lot of my loved ones and friends and soul family and family. And I encourage you to like reach out for the connection that feels like it'll support your authenticity and your highest good and your love and your life and your purpose, because you deserve it. We all do. And the codes that open up are just so fucking sacred and so fucking worth it. And something too that I really appreciate about having cultivated safe friendships, like true blue people in my life, is like we get to rise and shine together. Like there's these people that we can just be loved no matter what. And then from that space, it's like, all right, well, now what's possible? Like you have a real womb of like divine love to support you. Now what? And like, I'm so excited about rising and shining and being successful together. So yeah, I just went on a little riff here. How are you feeling? We have just 2 minutes. Do you want to keep going for another part, or are we good on this?
Might be a good time to wrap up.
Okay.
That will give me time to do stuff before Sheriff comes home.
Okay.
So, but why don't we do another one quite soon? Maybe do part 2.
I would love that. Okay, so part 2 of this interview is coming soon. And yeah, are there any links, anything you want like to promote while we're here for people to find you if you want to work with anyone, or how can they find you?
They can find me at on Instagram is one of the best ways to get a hold of me at shadow underscore dancer 4 underscores underscore 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 underscore.
That's really
And
why all the underscores out of curiosity?
because I couldn't get shadow dancer with less underscores. I just did underscore until I finally got the yes.
Scoring underscore, yeah, score it all.
Also too, it looks kind of like a long shadow to me, like the it's almost like the words have their own shadow. That's kind of what I was going for. I don't know if that was, good or not, but whatever. It's not very professional, but oh well. But if you also too, like, I sell these really beautiful candles. You can order them. You can order them through my Instagram. They are $20 plus shipping. But these are candles that I make. Look how beautiful they are. Boobies. What? Also, there is a couple of really juicy links in my link tree. And right now, none of the links cost any money. So feel free to check the links out.
Oh my God, I love you and I'm so excited. Like, yeah, check out her OnlyFans. It's so like it's not just like sexual, it's like so authentic. Like, you're so rich and real and deep. It's like fucking metal of like, spiritual goddess badass. It's so good. So
Yeah,
anyone you're lucky to find her. Pardon?
And it's definitely raunchy though. It's not like PG.
I love it. All right. Well,
So.
thank you, and wishing you all a magical now.